Picture this. You're on safari and you've got a leopard lying on a branch in front of you, in perfect light. You take the photo, and when you look back at the image, the leopard looks great. But the messy bush behind the leopard just doesn't do the moment justice. We've all been there, and the difference between that cluttered image and one where the leopard stands out beautifully usually comes down to one single setting: aperture. Aperture doesn't just control how much light enters the camera, it also decides how much of the image is in focus, and this is what we call depth of field. If you get it right, your subject pops, separated cleanly from the background, but if you get it wrong, everything in your image could compete for attention. And so today we're going to dive into aperture and depth of field, what they are, how they work, and how we can use them to create images that are not only technically sharp, but also emotionally powerful. Aperture is the size of the opening in the lens that allows light through to hit the camera sensor, and it is measured in f-stops, like f2.8, f4, f8, and so onwards. But here's where it can feel counterintuitive. The smaller the number, the wider the opening. So f2.8 has a large opening, but f16 has a small one. Now, why does this matter? Two reasons. Firstly, exposure. Like we said, a wide opening lets in more light, which can be especially useful at dusk, dawn, and in shady conditions, whereas a narrow aperture lets in less light, which can help on bright sunny days. Aperture is one corner of the exposure triangle, working together with ISO and shutter speed. Secondly, depth of field. A wide aperture like f2.8 gives you a shallow depth of field. Only a thin slice of the scene is sharp, whereas a narrow aperture, f11 or f16, gives you a deep depth of field, meaning more of the scene is sharp from foreground to background. Think of it like your own eyes. When your pupils dilate at night, you're letting in more light, but you lose the ability to keep everything in focus. When your pupils contract during the day, you're able to see more detail from near to far. And here's the kicker. Aperture isn't just a technical setting. It's one of the most powerful tools we have as photographers, deciding whether your image feels like an intimate portrait of a single subject or a bigger story including the landscape around them. Depth of field is simply how much of the image is in focus. A shallow depth of field at f2.8 or f4 isolates the subject. Imagine a lion's face tack sharp while the grass and bush behind it melts into a blur. This directs the viewer's eyes to exactly where you want it. A deep depth of field at f11 or f16 keeps more of the image in focus. And this is great when you want to show environmental context, like an elephant moving across a landscape, or a pack of wild dogs where you want the whole group visible. But aperture is only one factor that affects the depth of field. There are three other things that really matter. Firstly, your distance to the subject. The closer you are, the shallower the depth of field becomes, even at the same aperture. Secondly, the distance between the subject and the background. If your subject is right up against the tree, you'll struggle to separate it, even at f2.8. But if there's space behind the subject, the background will blur beautifully. And lastly, your focal length. Longer lenses like 400mm or 600mm compresses the scene and exaggerates blur. A 70mm lens at the same aperture won't give you nearly the same effect. And here's another creative trick. Where possible, try shoot from a lower angle, because by getting down low you make the background appear further away, swapping out messy grass and ground for distant trees and even the skyline. That extra distance means smoother backgrounds, cleaner compositions, and more powerful portraits. Alright, so let's put this into practice in the bush. We've got a large pride of lions lying in the shade of an apple leaf tree, and what I'm going to do is start off at f2.8 and focus on just one subject. See how that single subject pops against the blurred background. The detail is sharp, but everything else melts away. And this is fantastic for portraits or when you want the viewer's eye to go straight to one animal. Now if I stop down to f11, suddenly more of the pride will come into focus. Now it's more about the group dynamic and not just individuals. You can see more of the faces, more of the environment. It's the same scene, but a different story. And finally, let's change perspective. So this pride of lions are busy sleeping on a dam wall, meaning they're slightly elevated. So instead of parking right next to the animals and shooting down on them, let's drop below the dam wall and have them eye level with the vehicle. Suddenly the background shifts to the more distant trees and even the sky. That little change makes the image much cleaner and the subject stand out beautifully. And so in summary, here are a few practical tips for managing aperture and depth of field. Tip 1. Use wide apertures for portraits. Lenses like f2.8 or f4 are perfect for isolating subjects against messy backgrounds. Tip 2. Pay attention to your subject's distance. The closer you are, the shallower the depth of field will be. Great for detail, but risky if you want the whole animal sharp. Tip 3. Watch the background distance. More space behind your subject means more blur and cleaner separation. Tip 4. Use focal length creatively. Longer lenses exaggerate blur and help isolate subjects. And lastly, tip 5. Change your angle. Dropping lower can instantly give you smoother backgrounds and stronger portraits. Mastering Aperture is about using all of these factors together to not only create images that are exposed correctly, but tell the story you want. That's it for episode 3. Aperture and depth of field gives you incredible creative control, from intimate portraits to environmental storytelling. In the next episode, we're going to bring it all together with ISO and how it balances the triangle of exposure. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys out there next time with ORYX Photo Tours.